We think we found the ultimate cheat code to survival. We planted a single seed in the dirt, and we watched it grow. But that seed didn't save humanity. It trapped us. For 2.5 million years, we were free. We roamed the earth, we followed the seasons. Our ancestors worked maybe 15 hours a week. The rest of the time was spent resting, creating art, socializing. Their bodies were tall, muscular, and built for relentless motion. Look around today. We work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. We are stressed. We are anxious. We suffer from chronic back pain, failing joints, and diseases our ancestors never knew. The history books call the agricultural revolution our greatest leap forward. But what if the history books are lying? Because when archaeologists dug up the bodies of the very first farmers, they found something terrifying. The bones told a story of absolute biological collapse. The hunter-gatherers who lived right before farming were healthy. Their teeth were perfect. Their bones were dense. But the skeletons of the first farmers were drastically different. They were shorter, sometimes by several inches. Their spines were warped and deformed. Their knees were crushed. They showed severe signs of malnutrition, anemia, vitamin deficiencies. Their teeth were rotting out of their skulls from a diet entirely made of mushy grains. We didn't become stronger when we started farming. We became frail. We traded a rich, diverse diet of meat, fruits, and nuts for a fragile dependence on a single plant. And the worst part? We thought we were domesticating the plants, but we had it entirely backward. Think about it from the perspective of wheat. 10,000 years ago, wheat was just a wild grass. It was confined to a tiny sliver of the Middle East. Today, it covers more than 2 million square kilometers of the globe. How did this fragile, unremarkable grass conquer the world? It manipulated a species of clever, aggressive apes into doing its bidding. Wheat demands water, so we carried it from the rivers. Wheat can't survive alongside other plants, so we broke our backs pulling weeds. Wheat is defenseless, so we built walls and fought wars to protect it from animals and other humans. We didn't domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated us. The word domesticate comes from the Latin word domus. It means house. But who exactly is living in a house? Not the wheat. It grows free in the open sun. We are the ones locked inside. But if the early farmers were so miserable, so sick, and so overworked, why didn't they just stop? Why didn't they just go back to the woods? Because farming is an evolutionary trap, and it operates on a terrifying mathematical principle. Farming produces more food per acre than hunting and gathering. More food means you can feed more children. But more food does not mean a better life. The population exploded. Suddenly, a band of 50 healthy hunters became a village of 500 starving farmers. The surplus food didn't give them leisure time. It just created more mouths to feed. By the time they realized their bodies were breaking, by the time they realized they were miserable, it was too late. They couldn't go back to hunting. There were simply too many of them. The trap had snapped shut. They had to work even harder just to survive. And then, the real horror of the village began. Because when you lock hundreds of humans together in one place, you invite something much worse than starvation. Hunter-gatherers rarely suffered from epidemics. They moved constantly. They left their waste behind. But farmers stayed in one place. They lived next to their trash. They lived next to their own feces. And most importantly, they lived intimately with domesticated animals. Cows, pigs, chickens. This was a biological powder keg. Smallpox, measles, tuberculosis, influenza. These aren't human diseases. They are animal mutations that jumped to us because we built cages and decided to sleep next to them. The agricultural village wasn't a utopia. It was a disease factory. Child mortality skyrocketed. For thousands of years, living in a city meant a guaranteed early death. But despite the sickness, the machine kept grinding forward. Because someone was finally profiting from all this misery. A new type of human emerged. A type of human that hadn't existed for 2 million years. In a hunter-gatherer tribe, there is no wealth. You can only own what you can carry. No one can hoard food because meat rots. Therefore, everyone is equal. But a silo full of grain? That can be locked. That can be hoarded. That can be stolen. For the first time in history, there was a surplus. And a surplus requires a guard. It requires a manager. It requires a king. The agricultural revolution didn't just invent farming. It invented the elite. Kings, priests, and bureaucrats. People who never touched a plow but took the harvest for themselves. They called it taxation. They called it civilization. But it was a cage. The farmer worked from sunrise to sunset, breaking his body in the dirt, just to hand over his survival to a man in a palace. It is a system of extraction, and we are still living inside it. Look at your hands. These are the hands of a hunter. They were built to shape tools, to throw spears, to climb, to build. Look at your mind. It was built to navigate vast forests, to memorize the stars, to engage deeply with a small tribe of equals. But where are you? You are sitting in a box, staring at a screen, worrying about a piece of paper we call money to pay for food you didn't grow. The agricultural revolution was the most successful scam in the history of life on Earth. It gave us empires. It gave us the moon. It gave us the internet. But it demanded our biology in return. We didn't conquer nature when we planted that first seed. We surrendered to it. And we can never go back.